Go.
Alright, welcome to neverendingpanel.com. Tonight we are going to be discussing the concept of, from the time of the cavemen and before the time of the written word, the ancient art of storytelling existed. Is verbal storytelling still alive, or has it been replaced by paper and electronic books? To help us discuss this tonight, to my right is Nick Smith, a gentleman who is skilled in many things, from Civil War knowledge, filking, and he actually works for the Pasadena Public Library in both the adult and the children's sections, and excellent to speak on this matter. And to his right is PJ Harzma, a gentleman who has not only written books for children, but has actually created electronic media, including the RingsofOrbis.com, which is an interactive role-playing game for children to actually experience his entire storytelling universe. RingsofOrbis.com. So, let us just leap into this. Is verbal storytelling alive, or is it dead? From my personal opinion, the truth of the matter is, the only time I ever do verbal storytelling is when I think I'm telling a joke. And then I'll be very emotive, I'll go into things. But other than that, verbal storytelling on a day-to-day basis, I have to admit, seems to be a declining art.
So you don't get pulled over much by policemen?
Oddly enough, no. And you think looking at me, it would happen a lot.
Yeah. That's the best verbal storytelling.
Well, actually, storytelling has benefited and suffered from technology. And one of the reasons is that, weirdly enough, the iPod is a good thing for storytelling, because people are used to listening to audiobooks again the way they used to listen to radio. The most popular storyteller in the United States right now is Garrison Keillor. I mean, if you've ever listened to his shows, he does a lot of a type of storytelling that's common especially in the mid-America and the South, where you do these long, rambling family narratives or place narratives. And he's actually very good at that type of thing. What he doesn't do is take a folktale and tell it. And so that's something that has lost a little bit due to technology. But the revival of storytelling in the United States has been going on for about 30 years now and hasn't suffered that much.
But I think from the concept there, you're suffering the same problem you have with any technological advancement. Mm-hmm. It used to be music was something that everybody could do. Most households, with even the slightest middle-class pretension, had family members that all learned how to play a musical instrument. And music was musicality, singing, the piano if you couldn't afford it, the harmonica, the banjo, the guitar, something, the flute, tapping sticks was done by everybody.
Yes.
But as we were able to record music and move music on, it became more and more the realm of the professional, and more the person, the family's job, the individual's job was simply to select the music they wanted by somebody who did it better. Isn't storytelling falling under the same, I would have to say, destructive path in terms of individuals being able to do it?
It has suffered for the same reason, but again, there's some times where it benefits. YouTube is an example. YouTube now has zillions of storytelling videos out there that you can watch. And that's something where people get back into the habit of saying, hey, you know, that's interesting to see and hear a story. There's an entire website devoted to downloading audio files of stories. I believe it's called iTales. And it uses the iTunes model where you can just download stuff to your computer or your iPod and listen to somebody telling you a story. So yes, there's a definite drawback to the higher technologies. You don't have as much in television as you used to in radio. But the biggest single storytelling audience of all time was on The Tonight Show. And so you get both sides of that. You can have the harm from the technologies, but if you can use the technologies, any art form can also benefit.
PJ, will you let somebody else get a word in?
Yeah. I don't know if it's so much as as storytelling is disappearing as our communication skills of the last several decades have decreased greatly. I mean, I don't mean to sound old, but try to have a conversation, you know, with a young kid nowadays.
No, actually, I will support that with an anecdote that I teach as a substitute teacher, believe it or not. And
you'll see what I'm talking about then.
I do. I have students, and I ask them to read, and they're amazed because I'll just read something from the biology booklet. I say, the ant, when it goes wandering, will follow a scent trail. However, if the scent trail gets blocked, then the ant will lose its way and not be able to get its way back to the nest. And every single student I read, whether they are active, vibrant, or shallow, whether they are shy, will just go ahead, and when they're actually reading, they'll be like, the ant goes along the trail, and it's like emotion, emotes, say a word.
Well, that's not going to happen because, you know, we live in the land of fear now. and we fear each other, we fear our neighbors, we fear our own families.
Lawsuits.
So the whole idea to communicate with each other, we're afraid to even just start up conversations with complete strangers. Albeit good points, why we don't want to do that. But as we become
You out there in the internet world, start a conversation, rebel, fight the system.
As we become more and more insulated, I think it's that the communication skills get weakened, and therefore our verbal storytelling weakens. I mean, you have to be able to tell a good plot. You got to have a good narrative. You got to tell good characters. That alone is tough. But if you can't have basic communication skills, those are never going to come.
Well,
so I think communication skills is more of what's decaying, is more the root behind the decaying storytelling than it is in technology.
Can I ask an interesting question here?
Can you?
I'm hoping.
Okay.
So you'll let me know if it's interesting. The interesting question is this. A lot of people when the calculator came out, the electronic calculator, people were like, well, people are going to lose math skills, they're going to lose this, the abacus is doomed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, I'm not going back. Oh, no one's really going back, and the calculator is here to stay.
Right.
At some
But
point,
that's
is
just
this a battle we could win? Is this a fight we should have? Or is this something we should simply admit, move on, everyone get an iPod, and pray that you've got a couple of good, Gary, who's a wonderful reader? A couple of the people that read books, Patrick Stewart, read all our books, we're happy, and then we move on.
I agree. I think that's the case. I mean, I'm.
So you're not even willing to fight this battle?
Nope. I love technology. Bring it on. You know what I mean? I don't care what I do.
I come from the Ren Fair crowd, and I'm sorry, I just love the campfire, tell the story. I think maybe this is something we got to at least
So you go
fight around the hill before we get swarmed over by all
open up a bed and
the
breakfast and offer that service for an extra $99.99 and have campfire stories. And I'll be in my room reading them on my iPod.
Well, to give you an idea, last Sunday I spent the day down at Heritage Square Museum telling stories in a Victorian parlor.
Heritage Square is off the 110 in Los Angeles, California, where they save Victorian houses. They literally, if they're going to tear them down, they move them there, they restore them. It's a fascinating place to go, especially if you like the whole Victorian architecture thing.
But anyway, at this event...
And we're done. No, go on.
At this event, a group of storytellers, including myself, we tell stories, and a lot of the people are just not used to that happening, but they'll come in and be fascinated. Same thing out at the Claremont colleges. There's an international event where kids and college students and adults wander up to this storytelling tent and listen to stories. And one of the greatest things is when you see the light bulb go off over their heads and they realize, hey, I'm enjoying this.
This doesn't suck.
But the really sad thing is, I think the reason that they're not able to do the readings like you're saying is that is an acquired skill that isn't being taught in school.
Which one? The reading?
Nobody's being taught to read aloud in school with any meaning. And I think that's where what you were talking about is suffering. People are being taught bad reading skills.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the internet world, it looks like we've got a choice. We can simply accept the electronicization of storytelling and call it a day, or we could fight the electronic system until we're stomped over by the iPods and the cables strangle us in our storytelling beds. I leave that up to you. Thank you for attending this episode of NeverEndingPanel.com.